Well, it's set to be a big week in Canberra. We've got both the House and the Senate sitting. PM, of course, back from that big trip across Asia, where he met a whole lot of global leaders and key regional players. And as you've just seen in the package there, the writs to hold the referendum have this afternoon been formally issued. 33 days to go now until we all go to the polls to vote for or against Labor's voice to the Parliament proposal. Busy times. Joining me now to get his latest on everything and more, the Australian's national editor, Dennis Shanahan. Dennis, welcome. Let's start, if we can, with The Voice. I think we start every week now, don't we, with polling on The Voice. The latest figures show 57% of voters are going to vote no, 43% only are voting yes. Now, if accurate, and I say a big if, this is a shocking result for the yes camp, given that things have been very much weighted, including money, in their favour. And it isn't just that The Voice is unpopular. We've got the PM, of course, ahead of Peter Dutton, but he's taken a bit of a clip. He's now 43% to 28% on Peter Dutton as the preferred PM, but that has narrowed from where it was a month ago. So, Dennis, I'd say the gloss is coming off the PM. I think The Voice is now an albatross around him politically. I reckon he's broken every rule that's in the book for a successful referendum campaign. Pollsters, Labor pollsters like Cos Samaras, they think this yes vote's now in free fall. What's your take? Can he turn it around?
Oh, look, anything is possible in a democracy, Peter, particularly since there's $100 million now. The writs have just been issued today, so we're into a formal campaign, and that's a lot of money for the Yes campaigners to spend to convince people who are either undecided or soft no supporters to vote for the referendum. But you would have to say that the uniformity of all of the public polls demonstrate that the Yes campaign is in big trouble, probably on both hurdles to pass a referendum, not just a majority vote, but also a majority of the states. And I think that what we're seeing is a bleeding of that failing Yes vote, a failure in getting the referendum momentum going, bleeding into Labor support, and we're seeing a change for Anthony Albanese as leader for the first time in a couple of polls now since the election. His satisfaction rating is negative, and we're seeing the coalition edging a front in primary vote. Now, this isn't going to make any great difference to the electoral standing. The Labor Party is still well in front on 2PP, and the Prime Minister is still well in front of Peter Dutton. But these are significant changes, and Anthony Albanese is paying the price as support for the Yes referendum falls.
You and I have talked about this before. I mean, cost of living is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 issues for people, right? It is absolutely that in daylight. We're all talking about The Voice because, I mean, we both regard it as a very significant issue. But out there in the real world, that's not paying the power bill and, that's not putting the kids through school. But every time they look at the Prime Minister, he's either banging on about The Voice or he's getting on and off a jet going overseas. Now, to be fair to the PM, he's in the middle of summit season. It is like this for every Prime Minister come this time of year. But the optics of it are not playing his way.
No, they're not. And look, you do feel sorry for Prime Ministers. They have no choice. They have to go to these things. There are so many now. Look, President Biden just didn't go to ASEAN. He just said, no, I'm not going to go. And of course, the Chinese didn't go either, the G20. But what we're seeing is that the Prime Minister talking about things which people are not primarily concerned with. Yes, The Voice is important. Yes, relations with China are important. AUKUS is important. But people are more concerned immediately with their cost of living. And this is the main problem. When people get asked and polled and they're asked about The Voice, they get annoyed. There is a growing resentment towards the government over The Voice, and we have seen every time the government has a big launch, whether it's a Johnny Farnham song or whatever, support for the yes vote goes down. So the more people see of the referendum, the less they like it, and Labor is paying a price.
All right, let's go to Richard Marles, Defence Minister. I watched this with interest overseas, trying to defend his use of the RAF jets that sit inside his portfolio. I think he thinks that they're a flying bus for him from Geelong to Canberra or wherever else he might want to go, him and his golf clubs. He's not putting out information, the detail required. I mean, I worked for a former Defence Minister in the Howard years. He's not putting out the detail that other Defence Ministers, other PMs have about their flights. He spent close to $4 million on flights last year alone. He was with my colleague Andrew Clennell yesterday, copped a bit of fire. Have a listen.
Will you release that information, or will the advice give you cover not to release all that information?
Well, the advice will be the advice. I don't give the national security advice. We will release as much information as we can within the bounds of the national security advice. A concern that the national security agencies have is about not revealing patterns of behaviour which then create a target.
All right, he's got till the 13th of September to put this information out, which I think is about Wednesday. I call BS on that security line. If every other Defence Minister and PM can put the detail out, surely he should. I think he's making it worse for himself here, Dennis.
Yes, look, it's always difficult for ministers and prime ministers who use the VIP planes. It always looks like they're living high off the hog. And as a result, they need to try and give as much information as they can. Now, again, I have a sympathy for a Defence Minister or a Prime Minister on security issues, and that's fair enough. But trying to hide all of the information is not a good look, and I think that the Defence Minister and Deputy Prime Minister should actually try and be turning it the other way, saying, I will try and release as much as I can, not I will release as little as I can. So I think that politically, this is not a good look, and he's not handling the security issues he says are there in a smart political sense. Always remember how a helicopter ride cost Bronwyn Bishop her standing in Parliament on a way to a golf course.
As I said, I don't believe a word he's saying on this, Dennis. We'll see what happens on the 13th. Thank you as always. Great to be back and have your company.